Thanks to COVID, a lot of people have discovered they have ADHD or suspect they might have it. This explosion has been great to see, as it means more and more people are getting to know themselves and how their brains work a little bit better. One question that I see come up quite a lot is the question of self-diagnosis. Is it okay to self-diagnose yourself with ADHD? Or is diagnosis something that only a professional can do? A lot of people with an official ADHD diagnosis will say that self-diagnosis isn't enough, that you must have a proper diagnosis from a trained professional. But what about all the people who can't afford seeing a trained therapist for several sessions in order to get that diagnosis? Does that mean they don't have ADHD? No, of course not. It means that they will continue to have ADHD and struggle with it to a greater amount than they necessarily have to. This is where self-diagnosis comes in. There are, of course, some downsides to self-diagnosis. It is possible that you don't have ADHD and have something that is very similar, like autism or anxiety. Or you might have both in addition to your ADHD, which might otherwise be missed without a trained eye looking at your case. Then there's the problem of medication. If you want medication, you must have a formal diagnosis along with the prescription for the medication that works best for you and your ADHD. That is something that can only be explored with your medical professional. If you want accommodations in your school or workplace, you will also need a formal diagnosis, but you might not want to have your ADHD known in the workplace. Thankfully, a lot of workplace-related accommodations you might want are things that can be done without needing to reveal anything, like keeping a bottle of water nearby so you can stay hydrated. By the way, you should take a sip of water right now. So, what do experts think about self-diagnosis? There are a lot of experts out there, like the ADDA, Attention Deficit Disorder Association, who will say flat out that no, self-diagnosis is not enough, and you need to have a certified professional diagnosing you. But there are also others, like Dr. Ina Kanivsky, who acknowledges that there are certain mental health conditions that are underdiagnosed, like ADHD, especially in women and girls. Dr. Leslie Cook, a clinical psychologist in Richmond, Virginia, also believes that self-diagnosis can be valid. But if all you do is watch a few TikTok compilations, you might be missing something. So if you've watched some TikTok videos, or my memes, and you found you relate to them, use it as a jumping off point to do more research into it. Read some books about ADHD, take some online assessments, and do your research. That finally brings us to my personal opinion. I think that ADHD self-diagnosis is great, but not appropriate for everyone. Self-diagnosis can be a jumping off point for many to help them start understanding themselves better and provide the opportunity to start making adjustments to their life. The truth is that nearly every adult diagnosis of ADHD starts with a self-diagnosis. It's rare for your doctor to say they think you might have ADHD out of the blue. That isn't something they test for just for fun, and you have to express concern about it. It's far more likely that you will go to your doctor saying that you think you might have ADHD, which then leads to a diagnosis. I think we need to destigmatize self-diagnosis while making it easier for people to get a formal diagnosis. So long as diagnosis is held hostage behind a paywall, there will be people who cannot access it and will struggle because of the stigma that comes with self-diagnosis. We can make the world a better place for everyone by having some flexibility and changing the language we use around ADHD. Rather than saying, I'm diagnosed with ADHD, we could instead say, I have ADHD, which removes the diagnosis from the conversation completely. We also need to remember that not everyone with ADHD has the desire to be medicated, so they may not see it as a good use of their money, and this is valid. So, I say that ADHD self-diagnosis is okay, but what you do with that information is the part that really matters. A diagnosis, be it self-diagnosis or formal diagnosis, is only the beginning of your journey. They say that knowing is half the battle, but in this case I disagree. Imagine your life is like a map. You have a starting location and your finishing line. Along the way, you're going to come across all sorts of hazards and steep hills. Knowing you have ADHD, formally diagnosed or not, is like having a map to some of those hazards. How you make it past them only comes from expanding your knowledge, reading books, and watching videos. So arm yourself with the best information you can. Thank you for watching the first real episode of this series during ADHD Awareness Month. I hope you found it interesting and insightful. Tomorrow's video is going to be something a little bit more lighthearted, a Halloween meme compilation. We don't want to forget that October is Halloween month after all. The next video on ADHD will come out on Thursday, October 4th, where we will be taking a look at some of the myths around ADHD, some of which are still preventing people from getting diagnosed to this day. I hope you'll like and subscribe if you haven't already done so, and I'll see you again tomorrow.